This is Uncle Ruckus. No relation. I'm a very spiritual person. I start out each day thanking the man for the sunrise, for the land I walk on, for the air I breathe, and for this show, the era of Reconstruction.
Hey!
Ladies and gentlemen, we Trump supporters have to stand up, raise our fists to the air, and rally around our great president and fight the power that wants to take and dethrone our duly elected president. We got officials like Rashida Tacky Tlaib.
He done covered the names now. He comfortable.
She's taking advantage of the situation.
What is she saying?
Oh, you didn't hear what she said? Oh my God. Hold
No,
on.
I didn't hear what she said.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Rashida Tacky. That's the first time I heard. That's a good one.
There you go. She said he still won't wear this. Now, this is a tweet that she sent out early this morning. She said he still won't wear a mask. He only cares about himself and his life, not those around him or the people he took an oath to protect. Many lives lost because of his daily lies. Now, this is what she said. I mean, this. It really troubles and bothers me. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, before we jump into that, welcome to the Era of Reconstruction podcast. It is a New Journey Pack production for this Friday, October the 2nd, 2020. I am your host, Darren Williams, and the Director of Policy and Endorsements of New Journey Pack. And of course, joining me is the lovely and magical AJ Swenson.
Hello. Happy Friday.
And she's the chief of staff as well. Yes. And then we have the ever so boisterous Audrey Pruitt, our CEO.
So, hey, did you see this? This is probably not even on your agenda. It just came up.
Oh, what is that?
Secretly recorded audio tapes from Melania Trump.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Are you on Twitter?
Who's shocked by that, though?
Hold on. Let me get on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen.
Recording? This is in a recording conversations while he's finding it. Aired on CNN Anderson's Cooper 360. The First Lady is heard expressing apparent frustration over having to work on White House Christmas decorations and receiving criticism for the Trump's administration policy on separating children from their families at the U.S. border. Melania Trump's former friend and advisor Stephanie Wilson Wolkoff taped the conversation in 2018 after leaving the White House, according to CNN. We're gonna have to. I didn't know if this was. I didn't know. Sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Anyway, it's just secret tapes. October. I guess CNN wanted this to be an October surprise, but COVID blew that out, so they decided to just go ahead and release it now.
All right, and they could probably say he's lying about having COVID. He knew this was going to come out, or they knew this was going to come out, so he wanted to throw the whole COVID aspect up in there and get some sympathy.
Betty Midler? She says, I've lost all trust. I just don't believe it.
She doesn't believe that he has COVID?
Yeah.
Why would the guy lie about having COVID?
If Trump he wants to have the rallies and be out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, man.
I mean, listen, this thing is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I make fun of COVID. I probably already had COVID. You probably already had COVID. This doesn't mean. Go ahead.
My wife has it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Oh, she does. This doesn't mean it's not a death sentence, and I think the media is salivating. And there's an article that came out in CBS.
Yeah.
Where Nancy Pelosi was talking about, no, they haven't contacted me about a transition or secession of possibly me being the president. I mean, he's jumping the gun. It's not like this guy, has his 1 foot in the grave.
I think we should clarify something too, because I just said something, and I know people are like, "Wait a second, his wife has it. He's still sitting there with no mask around talking."
Please clarify that.
She is out of town. She caught it out of town. She's been out of town for like 3 weeks, and now she's just gonna stay out of town for another 3 weeks. So. Okay. I don't have to worry. She didn't have it when she was here with me. So she's out of town with the kids.
Yeah.
And so she's,
I'm glad you
so
clarified.
she's got it. Yeah, because I know people are like, wait a second.
Right, right.
Just, okay, Trump. Okay.
Yeah. So and he gets tested quite frequently. So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that. I mean, he could be asymptomatic.
Yeah.
If we, some reports are saying that he has mild symptoms of it, but they're saying that these are coming from the
I
White
didn't
House.
see any symptoms. If you looked at that debate, I didn't see any symptoms.
It might be like, I remember when Idris Elba, he was like, hey, I've got coronavirus. And he was like talking like normal. And everyone was like, is this a hoax? Like,
Yeah.
is he being
Because some people are
serious?
asymptomatic.
And then
Yeah.
his wife still, quarantined with him. And then she got it. But they both were staying in, but they didn't, exhibit the symptoms. That
Wasn't it at
happens.
one point it was fashionable to have the
Oh my
Wuhan
God.
virus? I mean,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, they claim that 200,000 people have died. Now, actually, that's one of the things I wanted to discuss. Do you honestly believe that 200,000 people have died of COVID or pre-existing conditions? Because a CDC report that came out about a few weeks ago or a month ago stated that the people who have died of COVID, the 200,000 or what have you, only 6% had died of specifically COVID, and that the 94 had died of pre-existing conditions.
Well, I guess it when you when somebody I'll put it to you this way. I would say that in fairness, you probably could say 200,000 people died of COVID. The reason why is because if you are older and you have a heart condition and you get the flu and you die, or you get pneumonia and you die, oftentimes pneumonia exacerbates the underlying condition. And they do say, oh, just as a casual matter, they'll say, yeah, you died of pneumonia. They do say that. If that's the precursor to the death, it's the same as if, if I do something to you to exacerbate, George Floyd, for example. George Floyd was hyped up on fentanyl. The aggressions of Derek Chauvin with a neck on his throat may not have been the pure underlying cause of death, but you say he wouldn't have died had it not been for the knee. So I guess you could say, yeah, there's 200,000 deaths.
Well, then you need a breakdown with that. You need to say, hey, listen,
they didn't do that around the world.
Well,
man.
of course,
Italy didn't do it. Nobody did that.
But my point is this: they're using the Wuhan flu. I like to call it the Wuhan flu as a weapon against President Trump. Oh, 200,000 people. Listen, a guy got hit by a bus on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
All right, he died of impact.
But
But
that's not a COVID death. That's not a COVID death.
But what did the doctor say? Well,
That's like if I'm constipated and I die, and they say, "Oh, he died because he had too much crap in his bowels."
Oh my God.
Like get hit by the bus. No, I died because I get hit by the bus, not because of the poop that came out of me.
But it's all question. It starts to become very questionable.
I don't know.
And this is the thing.
And they call it a comorbidity.
Morbidity.
Yeah.
But so some people had underlying conditions, but then the coronavirus is what led them to their
Demise.
So
Well, they were going to their demise, but it's just Corona sped it up. Right?
It just but I think
in all honesty.
but if you're sitting around, and if I was sitting around thinking about a family member, right? Let's say I knew they had heart problems and do this, and all of a sudden they caught pneumonia. I would, and people say, "Oh, how'd he die?" I would just say he died of pneumonia. And then if you explain further, you say, "Well, he had a bunch of problems, but he died of pneumonia." So you would say that. That's the fact that 200,000 people died, and they say that is, except for the case of being hit by a bus. I mean, that you died being hit by the bus. You didn't at that in that case you would say, "Oh, he was walking hit by the bus." The fact he had pneumonia doesn't matter.
yeah.
So, but I to me, that doesn't, and I think in the minds of the electorate, nobody's going, and I don't believe people walk around saying Trump killed 200,000 people. Even left
Trust me,
wing
some
people.
Democrats would love to say.
Yeah,
I've
well,
heard some
Twitter,
people try to link that.
Outside of Twitter's not real life.
I think the CDC said that only 6% of coronavirus deaths weren't a comorbidity.
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 Yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
Comorbidity.
Comorbidity.
Yeah, but the question is, does this? I mean,
But this is
I don't
the
think
question.
anybody's really. I'm not talking about what the left wing crazies are pushing out there, but I don't think anybody's really saying, Darren. I don't think anybody's really saying.
Well, they are blaming
Trump killed
for it.
who's they? Who's they?
Especially if you,
Who's
and
that?
I'm not saying crazies. Even
Joe
when you
Biden
watch
even
the
says-
DNC,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, who's they?
No,
though?
Joe Biden has said, well, the point of him saying that Trump has not handled the coronavirus or the Wuhan virus very well denotes that he's blaming Trump for the 200 deaths.
But I'm not-
whether he directly says, Trump,
I
you
don't
went out there
understand.
and killed them.
I don't understand
But-
how we get in these arguments. I am not saying that they're not blaming them. I'm saying that the average person walking
okay.
around
Well.
is not. I don't believe the average Democrat is going to the voting booth saying, "Oh, Trump killed 200,000 people with corona. I'm voting him out of
of
office."
course not. But they're saying, well, he wasn't good at handling the situation.
Yeah.
That's where when they go to the polls,
Yeah.
that's what they're thinking.
They're saying that it would have been less deadly had he not been president.
Right.
I don't. Well, they may be saying that, but I don't find that personally. I don't know if that's really true.
What?
I think it would have been less. I think it would have been less. Both President Trump, I think the media, President Trump, and the punditry class at large share equal blame in the shaky handling of it. Because from the time it became politicized immediately, when Trump said, "I'm shutting down,"
Flights
you've
from
seen the
China.
clips online.
Yeah, he shut
I'm
down
shutting
flights
down
from China.
coronavirus. You had Anderson Cooper, Don Lemon,
Hollering
The
that it was
View,
racist. Yeah.
saying he's xenophobic, he's this.
You had
The-
Nancy Pelosi
Nancy
going to
Pelosi.
Chinatown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
okay.
exactly. So
With
I
the
think that's
Chinatown.
what happened. These people.
So you can't put Trump in
They
that formula.
politicized it.
Right. So you can't
know?
put in that formula of
And-
blaming him.
No. I can definitely. Trump bowed to the mob when he discontinued his press conferences. He was doing really well. He was
I
doing
agree.
press conference
The
every
press
day,
conferences were
keeping
great.
people informed.
Yeah.
And what happened is when he backed off, I do believe that some people, particularly on the right, said, "Okay, this thing isn't as big as a spread as it." Just because he backed off of doing it.
And then they
that's
made
the
the
only
charge
time in his
that he was
presidency.
backing off and he didn't want to talk about it
And,
anymore.
and that's the only time in his, which I believe was true, and that's the only time in his presidency he really has done that.
Well,
And I don't blame him.
I think
because
it
you get tired of it.
I think it became exhausting. I mean, look at it. If we look at the flu each and every year, what is it? I think the statistics are that between 5 to almost 20% of the American population, which is 350 million people, contract influenza. You know, and so
Yeah.
here you have
but
seven.
apparently the coronavirus has a higher mortality rate.
It's apparently it spreads. It also
And infection
affects you
rate.
longer, and the infection rate is higher. But regardless, it doesn't. Honestly, that doesn't matter because the facts are the world shut down. You can't be. It doesn't. Those details don't matter when you all of a sudden have Italy, France, England, Germany, Japan, China. When everybody starts to shut down, there's a point when perception becomes the reality, and that's what the president has to deal with. And so what should have happened is Trump did it right. He was up there every day. He should have just stayed with it. And when they asked him stupid questions, he should have said, "This is not a time for politics. Let me continue with the pandemic." And he just did it every single day.
Right.
Because the perception is that he gave up and just threw up his hands. I don't think he did that in reality in the background. So let me clarify. But that's the perception.
You know what?
Yeah.
And like you said, it's perception. Everyone has their perception of things, and you can't always control that. I mean, I think he did a fantastic job. Should he have stayed up there? Maybe, maybe not. You know, but you're right. I mean, the perception is what people make it out to be. But going back to this thing with him, the man is not. Well, let's put it this way. I think he's gonna quarantine himself, him and the first lady. And I think everything will be perfectly fine. But, you know, this is an opportunity for the media to beat up on him as they were doing the past couple of days on racism and white supremacy and, you know, not denouncing white supremacists and white nationalists, which, you know, in my estimation, they're very difficult to find.
Do you think this hurts or helps President Trump? election efforts?
I don't think it affects him in any way. I don't think it helps him, nor does it hurt him. I think people have already solidified in their mind who they're going to vote for. Short of him dying, which we pray to God that he doesn't, this is not going to change anything.
Well, what's the name of the polling
supporters.
company? They were talking about when you sent around the polling numbers, how independents are starting to make a drift towards Biden.
Yeah. I forgot the name of it was 3 different polling companies. I forgot the name. The one I sent to the whole company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're starting to make a... This is a pivotal time. This is a month before an election. This is not the time to be making gaffes and stuff like that.
They're starting to make that drift. You saw it with Hillary. You even saw it with Hillary where they started to make that drift. Remember, and I keep going back to this. Hillary and Trump were within that margin of error in these polls. And what concerns me is Biden is outside of the margin of error.
Right.
It's not like in Michigan where Hillary was plus 2.5.
Yeah.
Plus 3 in Pennsylvania.
It's like 2, 3, 4.
Now
points.
Biden is like 5 points, 6 points now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be curious. Now, is there a sympathy bump for the president? In some small way, I think this is great to let Biden has Biden has a choice to make. And basically what they've been doing is just playing him, just keeping him in the basement, which turns out to be a great strategy, by the way.
Yeah.
It's turned out to be a great strategy.
The coronavirus helped with that because Hillary tried to do that and it didn't work.
It didn't work for her because they couldn't fail. Excuse, why aren't you out there? It didn't work for her.
Right.
So basically, they took the Hillary strategy. And let me say, when we say it didn't work for her, I actually believe it didn't work for her because of who she is as a person. Because she's so arrogant, she's so entitled. At least that's the image that's the perception.
Right.
That's why it didn't work for her. So she went to Michigan like on the last day. When Trump was going around doing rallies, she was at a Jay-Z concert, I think, in Florida or South Carolina or something, like partying it up with celebrities. That's why it didn't work for her. But you could say, this is when you think about it. If you were doing a company-wide or election or doing something, you would look at this and you would say, hey, Hillary was within the margin of error. She barely lost in Wisconsin, barely lost in Michigan, barely lost in Pennsylvania. Florida, where the number was a little bit bigger, but not that much bigger. What, 40,000? Not that much bigger. So in these critical swing states, she barely lost. So if I was Biden, I would look at this and say Trump almost imploded himself, but Trump is different than Hillary. So it turns out that this strategy, basement Biden strategy, is starting to come out to be a winning strategy. Now, I thought, and this is where my thing has changed, I thought that what would happen is that in this last month, it would start to fold back on them. In other words, the president would be out there so much that people would say, come on, he's out here trying. That's what I thought. But now he's got to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Right.
And his surrogates, I mean, we're a great surrogate group for the president, but, his surrogates aren't always the best surrogates.
Yeah, it doesn't replace, when you talk about voter contact, the highest amount of points you'll get is direct
contact. It doesn't replace that.
And I think the other part that Biden really benefited from was him attempting to kind of come across as a more mainstream Democrat and not, necessarily being everything that the hard left wanted him to be, although he did. In some areas, he really tried his best, it seems, to do what the Democrats did when they won the House back in running people who aren't as far left. And, so that's working for him too.
There was and I'm trying to find this report, but they were saying that a lot of independents are showing up at his rallies. A lot of Democrats and a lot of independents are showing up at Trump rallies. I can't seem to find that. Audrey and I go back and forth with these polls.
I don't even know if independents are really showing up at his rallies, or those just people saying they're independents.
Well, if that's the case, they're what? What did you say?
Are they just saying they're independents? Are they looking them up and seeing what they're registered as independents?
Are they asking them what are you?
Did they
registered
vote?
as?
Did they vote for?
Well, of course, you can believe. I mean,
What does a lot mean? Is that 5%, 3%, 10%, 50%?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find a report.
The Hill reported that a Trump campaign official said 25% of all rally attendees are Democrats or independents, and that came from Tim Murtaugh.
Okay. Listen, Darren and I go back and forth on the polls, and I think that if that is true, they are registered Democrats. But the question is, did they vote for Trump last time and they're still registered Democrats? There's so many questions about that you really need to know. I'm sure they know. Now, if it's what we want it to be, right? If we say, yes, 25% of people who did not vote for Trump last time are attending his rallies this time, then that means there's something in the water. But I just don't know.
Right.
Oh, the only thing we have to listen. I know people are like, oh, I don't believe the public, but that's what we have to go on.
I know. You're right.
That's what we have to go on. And what I'm looking at, Biden
it.
has been in the lead in a head-to-head matchup against Trump. Trump has never taken the lead. There's been about 135 polls since the start of this head-to-head matchup between Biden and Trump. And Trump has never held the lead. That wasn't true with Hillary. With Hillary, he held the lead. Trump has never held a Biden lead. Not in any swing state, not nationally, nowhere except like Alabama or a solid rock Republican state. Kentucky.
And the numbers that you sent were from a polling company that was right about Trump winning last time.
Exactly. This is not, I'm not trying.
Well, we're not in 2016. This is the thing with the polls, and don't misunderstand. I'm not a person that's 100% against polls, but everything has been politicized. I mean, the toilet tissue paper that's in the bathroom has been politicized. And so you get to a point.
Sherman, not Scott.
Yeah, basically. I mean, you get to a point where like, is this stuff real? And we're at a critical point now where in 2016 they weren't burning down buildings, they weren't shooting people, they weren't rioting and looting. Maybe at the inauguration, but my point is they're at critical mass now, and they will do any and everything and lie about any and everything. Just to get a leg up. And so, to question the polls, I think is legitimate. I'm not gonna put all my eggs in that basket, but at the same time, I'm not gonna throw the bathwater out with the baby, or the baby out with the bathwater. So, when I look at these polls, I take them with a grain of salt. I really do, because all this stuff is politicized. It really is. Who are the major pollsters? Are they conservatives or are they liberals?
Both. I mean, they both do. That's why you look at
even the Fox News polls. It's not.
Oh no.
But even if you look at the polls I'm taking the polls
that
did Trump correct last time, right? If I take just those,
Rasmussen,
ICT, Rasmussen,
yes,
etc., they still have Biden leading. So even if I exclude, I'm not going to include CNN, CBS, ABC, none of them. YouGov, not any of them. Let's just do the ones that got it right. There's like 3 or 4 that got it right last time. Right now, all of those have consistently showed Biden the lead. I'm just saying now, there's 2 things. One, if it turns out that Trump wins this despite those polls, then polling is over. That means that people aren't being honest when a pollster calls.
I think that's what's happening.
Now, that's what Darren is saying. Darren is saying people are, when they're calling, that at least if Biden's showing basically a 7-point lead right now, what Darren is saying is that out of 1,000 people, 70 people, 75 people are straight up lying. They're saying I'm for Biden when they're really for Trump. I can believe it, but I just don't. There's just no way. There's
no way to be sure. I mean,
I felt differently. So when Hillary, any of my friends can say this, when Trump came out the first time, and after I went out and I talked to people, I felt it. I said, Trump's going to win. Oh, I took crap. I lost my first show because of it, etc. Remember? I said, Trump's going to win. I remember I have a great friend in the Heritage Foundation. He sat and he laughed in my face, like they did at Real Time Mayor with Ann Coulter, laughed in my face. And I said, Trump's going to win. This time, I don't feel the same way. I feel it's a lot closer. Last time, I was just like, Trump's going to win. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout, and it wasn't. But this time, I just don't feel yet. I feel like it's there. But I don't feel it yet. Let me tell you why I don't feel it yet.
Preach.
BLM is ravishing Portland still to this freaking day. And the people there have put no pressure on the mayor. It's not until people get shot. Folks in Rochester, New York, if this was 20 years ago and this stuff was 10 years ago and this stuff was happening even under Obama would be real trouble as a president if Democrat mayors just let BLM run riot, roughshod. You know, I'm talking a lot on this podcast for some reason, but
No, we're listening to you.
I love President Trump. I just feel the momentum is not yet in his direction.
Yeah, I think when you talk to people who are supporting him, there's a lot of fatigue. They're very defeated. There's not much. Oh my God, there's not the triumphant feeling that I think there were before.
What people? Everybody I run into, they're excited about President Trump.
I'm not feeling that same.
Not like I did.
Nowhere near to 2016.
It is not going to be the exact same. I mean, Obama was different in 12 than he was in 8, but
yeah, for sure.
Well, listen, I think we have to consider the environment that we're in right now. I mean, we have the WuHan flu. You got to wear a mask all the time. The whole mindset right now, the country is it's warped. And so I think
people are also panicking.
Yeah.
This is,
people are panicking.
I'm concerned about
people lost a lot
also
of money.
about mail-in. Oh, speaking of, I want to read this later to you real quick. Not read the whole thing, but I'm concerned about mail-in I'm really concerned about voter fraud. Because in an area like Michigan and in Wisconsin, when you're winning these places by like 1,000 votes. Mm-hmm. What did they say? They found ballots?
They found ballots in the ditch.
What was this? Do you guys know that story?
What the ones they found in the ditch?
Yeah, what happened? I don't understand. Was this a primary story? Because so when Trump said, this is part of the issue, I wish during the debate he would have clarified this, but because I didn't, I'm in this stuff every day and I heard the story, but I didn't read it. I'm a little worried. I'm like, wait a second, we're finding ballots in ditches?
In Nevada, I think.
So in Nevada, they held an election. This was for the primary?
Well, there was.
Or was this for 2016?
Okay. Bail found in Greenville ditch did not include any Wisconsin ballots.
They're fighting back against the idea in Wisconsin now. Yeah. Like, no, that's not true. Yeah. It's not true that ballots were found in the ditch.
Were there ballots found in the ditch?
Well, we
don't know.
They're saying now that they weren't, but they were.
Their election officials are saying that's not true.
That's not true. But then again, like I said,
and in Nevada, they sent 200 ballots to the wrong addresses. Yeah.
200 to what address?
200,000 to outdated or undeliverable addresses.
Yeah. I think people are going to go to the polls. I mean, even there are a couple of articles out there where Democrats are urging people to go to the polls. So.
There's a story here in the New York Times that says nearly 3,000. This is from 2018. Nearly 3. Oh, jeez, oh, Pete, my Lord in heaven. Nearly, the New York Times is behind a paywall, and we have a subscription, and we apologize, folks. Today it's Friday.
They said that the feds is investigating discarded Pennsylvania ballots. So they're investigating that right now, which isn't all that comforting. 28 million mail-in ballots went missing in the last 4 elections. That's on Real Clear Politics. 28.
Wait, what?
They said between 2012 and 2018, 28.3 million mail-in ballots remain unaccounted for. So that's 1 in 5 of all absentee ballots and ballots mailed to voters. And they don't have any idea what happened to them. Oh, my goodness. Although there's no evidence that they're not, they were used fraudulently. They were, someone else voted with them. A lot of these issues, people don't clean their voting rolls. You need to clear out inactive voters. You need to make sure people update their address. The last time when I went to vote in the primary, my mail-in ballot didn't get into me until the day after the election. So I was like, my ballot isn't here. So I had to go in and vote. And then the next morning, my ballot came in. And I was like, okay, this was a waste of taxpayer funding, but that's okay. So I think a lot of people have some misgivings. I don't think that there's I get a lot of conservatives feel like, oh my gosh, all the ballots are going to be fake. I don't think we should overblow it, but I do think we should be reasonable and say there will probably be issues, for sure. I don't think we should think like, oh, there'll be 100 million fake ballots in the mail. But I do think we should say, okay, you know, there's going to be issues in certain places, especially when you have issues in certain places like Broward County with regular voting. What were you going to say?
Well, I think the best way to solve this on both sides is just to go to the polls and vote. I mean, I think that's the best way to resolve it.
If you don't have pre-existing conditions.
Listen, this is the problem. We've got Republicans right now. We've got a lady in our office right now who has the mask practically down her fucking throat. I'm sorry, down her throat. Now we got to put an explicit thing on it.
Who's that? Who are we talking about?
I can't say her name over here. You know, the lady in the thing. You went to shake her hand. She's like, ah!
Yeah, I know.
You know, meanwhile, you breathe around people. I mean,
people, but
when did we become such a nation of
this
scaredy cats?
You know how? Let me tell you something. I think the way we got it because of these movies, these apocalyptic movies that we're always watching.
The media.
The media. I mean, all this stuff is like you're scared to leave your house. The movie Contagion came back out. It's sad. It's sad to see this.
Contagion? I don't watch scary movies. So
that movie.
I'm too scared for scary movies. Yeah. I can't do it. So I feel like the conservative approach a lot of the times is, oh, it's a hoax. It's not real. I don't think it's corrupt.
That. I think it's what happens is that the media takes it or liberals take it and they blow it completely out of proportion.
Yeah, they go
too far. And so you go all the way to the left. You gotta kind of swing people back to the right.
Then people just swing too hard. Like, oh, you want to say that? We're gonna slam the door in the complete other direction.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised that after the election, all of a sudden, COVID-19 disappears.
This was a major rabbit trail.
In 2018, about 3,000 votes disappeared during the machine recount of Florida's midterm races. None of the discrepancies in this case would be enough to affect the outcome of the 3 statewide, 3 local elections that were still waiting for a winner to be called. But they come as at least 3 Florida counties, 2 Democratic strongholds, have reported problems in counting shares. I mean, this. In other words, when we went to the polls, we can barely count votes, right?
Right.
Which is amazing to me. Do you realize American Express has like a 0.00012% error rate? And they're counting millions of transactions second by second, moment by moment.
So what you're saying?
And we got a person inside the booth, and we can't even get the damn transaction counted right.
What you're saying, we should have private industry. We should privatize elections.
And okay. Also, there's going to be less poll workers because many people are afraid of the coronavirus. So the training isn't going to be the same. They're not going to be able to train in some ways in person. So there's going to be all different types of other things surrounding the ballot that will be different because of what's going on. That could also add some issues of people getting in, getting out, people's poll votes being counted, etc.
This is very stressful. This is very stressful.
I'm too blessed to be stressed.
Listen,
don't let it stress you
out. Regardless,
what else
I will take a whole
This is a rabbit trail.
Yeah, it is. Along with the coronavirus that they're blaming on Trump, they're blaming white power. White supremacy, white nationalists, whatever the case.
I'm not worried about white folks. They can't even count ballots.
But the point being is that
that's the title. Can white folks count? That's our title. Emmanuel, we got
Hey,
our
look,
title.
they might not be able to count balance, but they can count them dollars. And ladies and gentlemen, we need your money. So don't listen to Audrey. At one point, you thought it was the dude. What's his name? We can't say his name on the show. But anyways,
Okay, why people? Have you seen on Twitter where they spell it like WYPIPO?
No, I haven't seen that.
Yes, it's like why people when it's a Black Twitter thing.
Okay,
it's a Black Twitter
I gotta look it up. I'm on Black Twitter. I don't see that, but I'm on the older Black Twitter. The stuff where we're still trying to figure out how to spell Twitter.
Right. No, this is the thing. Actually, this leads to Tim Scott. This is the thing that really bothers me, and Audrey and I think we discussed this. And AJ, actually, I think we discussed this. Mm-hmm. I'm so sick and tired, and they're going to continue to do this over and over and over again for Trump to denounce white supremacy or white nationalism or racism, whatever, or these organizations, which are so small. They're so minuscule. It's ridiculous. You can barely fit them in a phone booth. But they're constantly demanding him to denounce them. I mean, and it's one of these things where Tim Scott, what they're calling him the Magic Negro, the GOP. They asked Tim Scott, what was his thoughts on Trump not denouncing white supremacy. And Tim Scott, instead of saying, listen, this man has denounced white supremacy, he's denounced white nationalism, whatever the heck you want to call it, many and many of times. You don't need him to continue to denounce it. That's not his priority. That's not his prerogative. It's a situation where he's not associated with. I mean, you tried to run him with David Duke when he was with the Reform Party. He quit the Reform Party because David Duke was a part of it. So that should show you that the guy is not racist and he does not promote. And, of course, they're throwing up, the Charlottesville thing constantly. And so I'm just exhausted by, here you have Republicans, particularly Tim Scott, because they're always running to him, asking him, hey, what did you think about the president saying this or didn't say this about white supremacy or white nationalism, and do you think that it was an error? And then Tim Scott dutifully falls behind, oh, well, I think it was a stumble or whatever, instead of growing some balls and saying, listen, stop asking me these stupid questions and just get over it. I mean, really.
Yeah. I wish that the president would have said during the debate, of course I denounce white supremacy. Now, let me ask you a question. Why do you keep asking me this dumb question?
Yeah.
Why is it that you keep asking me this question?
Or why don't you ask Joe this question?
Why don't you ask Joe Biden this question? Or I would have asked Chris, hey, Chris Wallace, do you denounce white supremacy? Because I've been reading a report that some of your friends are a little shaky. I would have just said it right back to him.
I mean, he's debating Joe Biden.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. He was debating Chris Wallace.
Well, yeah.
Well,
we
that
know
wasn't the way it was supposed to.
No,
He
the
wasn't
fact
gonna
that
ask.
Chris Wallace asked him the question in 2016,
Yeah,
Chris
exactly.
Wallace already knew that he had denounced
Knew
it,
the
and then
answer,
he
right.
asked it again. See, you trying to get me wild up. I see you.
Go ahead.
No, I'm not getting wild up.
Okay.
In Jesus' name.
No, I mean, Tim Scott is always put in this position, and
he knows
I
it.
feel for him.
But he should respond for
Because-
himself. He should say, "Why are you asking me?" Go ask Dick Durbin.
He had,
Right.
and I remember there was a time Paul Ryan said, "Okay, I'm not gonna talk on Trump's tweets anymore," and he got all this. Oh, he doesn't want to hold the president. He doesn't. Da, 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 da. So when people say, "Oh, I'm not gonna respond to this all the time," then they say, "Oh, well, you're avoiding your responsibility." Anyway, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think he should have just said he misspoke. He should have just answered the question. I hope he corrects it, because a lot of people were saying that and they would be right. So
Do you think he
I
misspoke?
don't get why he said, I guess he didn't misspeak if he doesn't correct it. I don't get that part. If he doesn't correct it, I guess. So what are you saying? If he doesn't correct it, then I guess he did mean what it came across as? That's the part I didn't get.
I go back to what I'm saying. Tim Scott needs to just grow some balls and say, look, stop asking me that question. Stop asking me the question.
As long as the president makes comments that can be misconstrued like this, he's going to get axed. whether he likes it or not.
And then he needs to just say, stop asking me the questions. I've already answered. Look back at old transcripts of me saying, stop asking me the question. I've already answered it. And so, it's my whole thing is that I look at Trump as an incredible fighter. And I think the Republican Party, Trump has grown the Republican Party tremendously. He has. And none of these guys have the balls to just be like, you know what? This is our leader. This is the guy who's helping us, who's growing us. We're successful, and we need to stand behind him no matter what if it costs us our job.
They did come behind Trump. That's not true. A lot of these Republicans did come. A lot of them. Lindsey Graham is getting attacked right now because of how, and has been, because
I'm not saying 100% of them. I'm saying
a lot of them did say, okay, he's the leader. We're going to, okay. They did rally together largely, but they're constantly being asked about stuff that he does or says and having to defend stuff that he says, stuff that he does, places he goes, whatever.
And they need to say, listen, I'm not his mother or his father, and I'm not going to defend the man. He's a grown man. He's the leader of the free world. He's the most powerful individual, and I'm not going to defend him or answer questions like he's my child. They need to step up.
That's not the way if a Republican senator was asked about something George Bush did, this is not something that's uncommon.
Oh yeah, no. It's uncommon. It's not uncommon for Republicans,
but it's uncommon
for Democrats.
Right? They would never ask someone in the
How
House.
many?
It depends on the level of power because people.
Yeah.
All liberals, when AOC was talking about Green New Deal, when AOC was talking about the Green New Deal, they were asking every Democrat, do you support the Green New Deal? Do you support this?
No.
So it depends on the topic.
AOC.
That's a policy.
It depends on the popularity.
That's a policy.
It depends on the popularity of the politician. When AOC had said, "Oh, I don't support moderates," then I was on CNN. They were asking, "Oh, do you believe that
can't compare AOC
Democrats
to President Trump?"
No, I'm saying it's based on the polarizing aspect of the politician.
That's BS because I don't recall Nancy Pelosi being asked, "Do you believe people aren't black if they vote for Trump?" I don't recall that. I don't recall Jerry Nadler being asked that.
I'm not saying it happens to the same level, but we can't act as if politicians are never asked about what other politicians in the party say, especially if the president says it in prime time.
Obama said a ton of stuff and nobody questioned any politician.
I don't recall Nancy Pelosi being asked, "Do you believe Americans didn't build that? Did somebody else made that happen, Nancy?"
You're citing very specific instances where
because
it didn't happen.
this is specific incident.
Yeah.
You're citing very specific instances where that didn't happen, but there are instances where it does.
So
there are definitely instances.
Name one.
I just did
No.
two.
In reference to Obama, not AOC. I mean, she's a nutcase.
Well, we're talking about we're going to talk about recent examples.
Recently. Yeah, let's stick to recently.
Right. Okay.
Because I did.
As a recent example, people on the right are asked to defend President Trump way more than anybody on the left is asked to defend either Joe Biden's crazy comments, AOC's crazy comments, etc. They're always asked that. I'm not including policy.
I don't disagree that it's more, but I'm saying we shouldn't act as if Trump's asking a question like that at a debate that it wouldn't be asked the next day, especially to Tim Scott.
The white supremacist. Oh, you're saying that? No. We're not saying that it wouldn't be asked. That's not the debate. That's not the disagreement we're having. The disagreement we're having is what we're saying is Tim Scott should have said "F you." That's what he should have said.
Bottom line.
Tim Scott is going to be in office when Trump is gone. So the idea that he can just become Trumpian while Trump is there and then I don't blame. My only issue with what he said was the second part. That was what to me was like, what's your point? What are you trying to say? Why don't you just be clear on what you're trying to say?
Okay, but like I said, this whole he could have been very clear if he'd have just said, "I'm not going to answer your question anymore."
I agree that he should have been more clear.
Is stupid? Even the fact that we're talking about this, do we really believe that President Trump is a white supremacist? Let me just ask this question: do we really believe President Trump is a white supremacist?
Of course not.
I don't believe that. No.
It's like I don't believe that President Obama is secretly upholding Sharia law.
Right.
He loves money too much to do that.
Don't think that?
No. Oh my God.
Come on. This is what makes it. And John Roberts, I didn't see the clip, but I was reading about it. And John Roberts going off. Did you see that yesterday? John Roberts going off the president. I didn't see it, but apparently I read it.
I saw it, yeah.
You know, and it's just like, come on. No, the president does not have to answer that.
Yes, he does.
He does not. No,
Yes,
he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
He could have last night at the debate. He could have ended the discussion, but he continued it.
He would have never
his
ended the
fault.
discussion because they would have asked it the following day.
No,
Even if they asked it if he had,
So how many
this was
times-
the one
just
time
like
he
he said,
had
what do you
the
want me to do?
nation's attention. He had the nation's
He has the
attention.
he
nation's
had it in
attention all year.
2016 when they asked him.
He had
Chris
it, and then
Wallace
things have
asked him
happened
then
since.
and said, "Do you support white supremacy? Do you denounce it?" And he said, "I denounce the KKK.
So do it
I
every
denounce white
time.
supremacy."
So
no,
do it
because
every
there comes a point when you're a punk.
And instead, you look like an idiot because you couldn't answer an easy question.
So basically, what you're doing is you're just capitulating to the
It's
the
not
narrative.
capitulating.
It
It's
is
just why
capitulating.
you're a
It's what it
month
is.
It's
before the
capitulating.
election. For you to not just do it, it doesn't make sense.
I'll equate it to this, Angela. It's like stupid folks that come up to me and when people talk about violence perpetrated against black folks and they say, "Well, what about the violence in Chicago? What do you think about that?" How many times do I have to say the violence in Chicago, blacks killing blacks, is crazy? How many times do I have to say that it's the same damn thing? That's patronizing.
Sounds really tough. I'm really sorry. That's a first world problem, sir. Get over your first world problems. Answer the question. Be clear in the discussion.
And by the way, white supremacy is a first world problem.
Answer the question, I guess. Answer the question every single time. Do it at the debate. Cry about it when you win again. There you
No,
go.
I don't think you do that. I think you say
Because all you guys in here defending it are already Trump supporters. That's not what right now is about.
No, that's not what I'm
That's not
saying.
what we're
Since
talking
you
about.
say well, I don't know what Darren's saying. This is what I'm saying. Tim Scott says, when he says, "Do you think President blah, 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 blah," Tim Scott says, that has been asked and answered. Done. President Trump, that has been asked and answered.
That's it.
Asked and answered. The issue with President Trump, his problem is not that he didn't say, "I denounce white supremacy." His
I'm not
problem
saying that
is
he's never said that.
The problem is that he didn't say, "That's been asked and answered. I'm
right.
moving on.
Yep,
Your
absolutely.
question's offensive."
Trump should have been more clear. He wasn't.
That's true. I don't
Scott
disagree. I
should have
said
been
that.
more clear. He
And
wasn't.
Why aren't they clear? This is very clear. Asked and answered.
Yeah.
It's because when it comes to these race issues, even the black Republican senator is too scared. Grow a pair, like Darren said. Get some balls.
Big balls.
Both of them need to. You both should have handled the situation the right way. You both didn't. You didn't. Then Scott's in the. I'm talking about Trump.
Okay.
Trump didn't. The buck gets passed on to Scott. Scott didn't, because I saw other Republican legislators who were very clear. He should have just answered the question. They weren't shaky on it. They just said what it is. And I'm not sure why
We're not
Scott
really
different.
disagreeing. We're not really disagreeing.
Yeah.
We're not really disagreeing.
The only thing we disagree on, Trump should denounce it every time. And when you win again, then you can
He should say asked
do
and
your
answered.
tizzy fit. Do
He
your
should say
tizzy
asked and
fit.
answered. Asked and answered.
Do your
Asked
tizzy
and
fit.
answered.
Once you win. Right now, you ain't winning. You losing. So do what you got to do.
Asked and answered.
Well, we will see.
Put on
We
your
will
big boy
definitely see.
pants.
So
Asked and answered.
this might be the October surprise.
The COVID? He got
Yeah.
COVID? That's what I said. I said that earlier.
This might be it.
This is the October surprise.
You know,
President's COVID.
look. He threw. You know what? The man is so brilliant. He might have said, "You know what? I'm gonna
might
October
have said,
surprise
"Hope.
myself."
Hope, bring your COVID bud here. Breathe on me, Hope. Breathe.
He said,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
people.
gonna
Is
beat
it true
them
that
to the
she has
punch.
it too?
I don't know if it's true. Let's just be honest. Who even? It doesn't matter what news outlet anymore. You have to read a story and triple check it. Go to
I know.
Twitter, Facebook it. It's just it's so crazy. You
I know.
cannot believe anything.
A perfect
And-
example
and
is that.
Perfect example as to why I question the polls.
A perfect example of that is, speaking of Magic Negroes, when they were saying, "Oh, Ben Carson tripled rent for people in low-income housing," and I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy!" And I had to search through articles and articles and articles to find out they were paying $50 before,
Yes.
and literally none of the articles would say $50 to $150.
Not only that, but they also wouldn't tell you the story that rent had not been raised in years.
Right.
That the Obama administration had canceled the step-by-step rent. Because as everybody knows that, and the same thing is stabilized housing in New York, right? It's it's cash for step by step. But you're 100% right. You're paying $50 a month, and we're taking you to $150 a month.
Right.
And meanwhile, we go into the projects and we see 8 Mercedes. I don't even have a Mercedes.
I ain't seen no 8 Mercedes and no projects, but I see what you're saying.
BMWs?
No, not in the projects in DC. I don't know. Maybe the projects here in Florida.
I was in this thing called, what is it called? The DC name of the DC neighborhoods. It's a really, really, it's like really hood. It's A.
South, it's got to be in Southeast.
Anacostia?
Anacostia. I was there.
Yes.
I was there. This place was like hood. I was there.
Yes.
I'm driving through and I see the old brownstones, the old townhomes and stuff. I saw Mercedes. I'm not saying a lot, but I would probably say out of 10 cars,
were they brand new
I
or
saw
were they
3 or
used?
4.
Right, and it is being slightly gentrified.
Well, when I say when I gentrified. When I say I wasn't in the gentrified part of Anacostia where they built the new hotel in the buildings. I know what you're talking about. Okay. That's close to. That's when you're going on your way back in towards the middle.
That's another.
That's not where I was. That's close to Department of Transportation. That's not where I was.
Okay.
I was in the yeah. Mm-hmm. And I saw all the cars. I saw the folks hanging out. I saw, I was like, oh, well, this is nice. Everybody, it's Tuesday, and everybody's hanging out. Okay, that's fine. Everybody works security at night. I get it. Okay, And there was a lot of white folks there, hanging out, talking. I've never seen so many people. That's always. I don't want to get people upset, but you ain't got no job. Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever wondered why you see a 17-year-old boy? I don't care white, black, age. Why you see 17? Like, who has time to be on Twitter in the middle of the day?
People
don't you have a job to work? No. To do something? Unless is everybody a social media manager?
He might be at the job on Twitter.
I just need people to take their butts. People need to believe in work. And we need to believe in work. Yeah. Work. I don't care if you're black or white. Males as a male. I don't want to talk about women for a second. Let me talk to men. As a man, you need to get your ass up, get a job, and go to work. And if you can't find a job, create a job.
Amen.
I agree.
I believe the implicit problem we have with gang violence, rather it's white gangs, black gangs, Hispanic violence, is we don't have people that are actually working. Drug dealers are lazy now.
Yeah. Well, I think, and we know this, that work builds character, it builds responsibility, it builds a sense of pride.
And then that's when you have the African American History Museum put out that thing saying whiteness is individualism and rugged work and a Protestant work ethic
and being on time and being polite.
And what's amazing to me is LeBron, Morgan Freeman, Oprah
even
Winfrey,
Colin Kaepernick.
Exactly
working his butt off with this activism.
I give it to him, man. Colin Kaepernick did not get his money by sitting on his butt. He worked hard to strangle extort that money out of Nike.
Would you say he's making more money now than he would have been if he was in the NFL?
Right?
Yeah.
He's working hard. Yeah. This is what bothers me about this.
Well, we talk.
Every athlete knows. I watched. Have you seen this documentary on Netflix with Michael Jordan?
Yeah. The Last Dance.
This thing is amazing.
Yeah. That man.
To understand the level, I've always had respect for professional athletes, mostly because I'm a fat ass. But I have. Well, I used to be a little athletic, but I have to be an athlete requires discipline. Regardless of the women you sleep with, the hoes you got, regardless of if you go out and party, most athletes don't. It requires a level of discipline that is absolutely unassailable. Discipline, work, day in and day out.
Oh, I agree with you, and I think they have that.
And they are running, and they need to preach that. Imagine if LeBron, I'm not saying support Trump. I'm not saying. Imagine if they put all this effort they put into BLM BS. If they put half of that effort into talking about get off your butt, get a job, get off your BART, start a company. Imagine where black folks would be.
Oh, of course. Well, Republicans were constantly doing that. Democrats can't afford to do that because then they would become extinct. They would.
Well, I did. I was sharing that poll with you this morning. It was a poll on black attitudes.
Yep.
And it was saying that 56% of black people believe that most people, if they work hard, they'll succeed in life, compared to, I think, 40-something% of Democrats.
Yeah.
So the amount of black Democrats that believe in hard work is actually higher than most Democrats.
You've heard that. This is the issue. It's never the majority of I hate saying black culture because it's not really a culture, but for lack of a better term, it's never the majority of a group that takes it out. It's like one bad apple spoils a bunch theory. It's not that. It's the 10 to 15 to 20% that don't want to do work. That's what impacts everybody.
And every race has that, because
every
Charles
race has
Murray
that.
is talking when I'm still working through Coming Apart, and
Yeah.
they're talking about the amount of white men on disability for
Mm-hmm.
years and years and years.
And now there's and I'm the first to admit there is an issue there that we have to talk about, because what has happened I really got to get into. Actually, I think I have some theories behind it. So what has happened is the equality gap between rich and poor has spread. And one of the reasons why it's spread is because I believe of the avenue of credit. One of the things that I've realized when I was doing some reading is that most people are living on credit. Now, some people can say, wait a second, that's not true. But if you think about it, you are, because credit, in terms of the numbers we get, are when you pay your credit cards off at the end of each month, or you pay something over. But if you look at it in terms of not the total assets, but the fact that, I'll give you a great example. When people buy their phones, 75-80% of people buy their phones on credit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say this. Let's say we got rid of all credit cards, all credit. The only way you could get it is if you had like $5 million or more. So those people are in a whole different stratosphere. Let's say we're back in the olden days and there was no credit. Could Apple afford to make a $1,500 phone? If you had to come out with $1,500 cash out of their pocket.
Right. And that's the reason why they changed it up, because you remember when Apple first came out, you had to buy the phone completely.
You had to buy it.
You had to buy it
AT&T,
completely.
yeah.
But they realized that, like you just said, if we put people on a credit plan with no interest, then we can sell these phones like each and every year.
And upgrade and keep going.
Absolutely.
So one of the problems with the disability, and I think in white men suicide rates going up, etc. One of those issues is that you can't really afford. You truly are in a state of broke, because everything you do, if you had the envelope, the old envelope method. I don't know if you know, Dave Ramsey used to talk about that, where you put all your money in envelopes. Mm-hmm. If we did that, most of us could not maintain our lifestyles that we have. If you only had to spend the cash you had when you got it from your job, you could not maintain that lifestyle. So right now we are in a situation where people have been making $12 or $13 or $14, and the Democrats have a point when they talk about this. People are making $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour, and it's not enough for the living wage. Well, the reason why we didn't realize that earlier was because it was offset by credit. In other words, your $12 an hour, you turn into $18 or $19 an hour because everything is on credit. Your late payment would be a really good study is to find out the number of late bills there are in totality.
Well, they have said that since the recession that Americans are relying on credit more.
And they were relying on credit. Let me put it this way. So in the 50s and 60s, right, a home now, I think an average home now is roughly $200,000, if I believe, right? $200,000 with your average salary being $40,000, $45,000, right? $200,000 home, average salary, let's just say, being $50,000, right? So you have a 25%. If you roll that back into the 50s, I believe 30s, 40s, and 50s, I believe, because you have inflation, right? So I believe you had a new home could be gotten for like $12,000, and the average salary was like $8,000.
And you only had one salary.
And you only had one salary. Yes. So think about this. That's the difference. Back then, your home was basically double or maybe triple your salary.
Right.
Now your home, and that's 6, a basic
7, 8,
home.
8 times.
That doesn't include all the. Now it's 7 or 8 times your salary. Yeah. There used to be a time when, you got a mortgage, but it was conceivable you could pay off that mortgage. Now we're doing 40-year mortgages, 50-year mortgages. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is an element. Now, a part of that element is, and so some people will say, well, Autry, that's what the problem is with capitalism. That's not capitalism, by the way. That is people coming in. That is people coming in and not letting capitalism work. Because if you kept capitalism to work, guess what? The banks would have died out. If a banker had to really risk their own money on lending you that a home, far less people would be getting homes because they couldn't afford them. But since they know the government's going to bail them out.
Right.
Frank and Dodd.
I don't know how we got on that discussion, but
Frank and Dodd.
We were talking about people not working, white men getting disability, and yeah.
And you know what?
Well,
Man,
me
we were all
and
over the
Darren
place
were talking about that economic, like a lot of some of the culture issue being related to economics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what we're gonna have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're gonna have to pick this up on another episode.
We can keep going. I mean, it's a podcast.
We need to do a overtime. Like, they have outnumbered overtime.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how we end this week.
Oh, I like
a slow, hot wind, ladies and gentlemen. That was Autry Bruin, ladies and gentlemen.
Real romantic, Autry.
Exactly. Well, thank you for joining us for this week, and you will hear from us again tomorrow. Please stay tuned, and thank you for tuning in to the Era of Reconstruction, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, we're doing a podcast tomorrow.
Are we doing one tomorrow?
I guess so.
Yeah.
How?
No, wait, you're leaving.
Yeah, I guess. Monday. Let's put it that way. Monday. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Should we start over with the outro? Or?
No. Okay.
Uncle Ruckus again. No relation. This podcast is paid for by the New Journey PAC and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.